Electric airplanes are a straight up scam, and I'm not being a jerk here, all right? And I'm not just some guy who's afraid of change or what the future is gonna bring. I'm saying it because I can actually read a spec sheet, and the math says no. And if you've seen those slick videos of those air taxis or commuter jets that are supposedly hitting the market here soon in like the year 2030, you're being fed an actual lie. It's a bait and switch, and that's because the math doesn't work. And that's a fact. Because guess what? We're hitting a wall, a physics wall. And it's like we're playing in a sandbox where the rules were set in some stone long before anybody ever had a thought about putting a battery into a Boeing. And today I'm going to show you the actual hardware limits. And if you think I'm wrong, I want you to look at the numbers and tell me exactly where I'm missing it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about the only thing that actually matters in aviation, and that's weight. If you want to move a plane, you need energy. There's no way around that. In the industry, they call it energy density, but let's just keep this whole thing simple. Let's just call it the dumbbell rule. I want you to imagine that you're going on a 1,000-mile hike. Jet fuel is like having a tiny high-calorie energy bar in your pocket. It weighs almost nothing, but it gives you enough power to hike for days and days and days. Now, batteries are like carrying a 100-pound dumbbell. It takes so much energy just to lift the dumbbell off the ground that you don't have anything left to move the plane forward. The math doesn't lie, folks. Jet fuel holds about 40 times more energy per pound than the best batteries today. It's actually a miracle. 40 to 1. Think about that. Even if an electric motor is way more efficient than a jet engine, which it is, you are looking at a massive gap. To get a standard passenger jet off the ground with today's batteries, the gas tank would have to weigh more than the entire plane itself. And you're not building a plane anymore. You're just gonna be building a giant lead brick at that point. It's a hardware failure at the molecular level itself. It's not just a breakthrough away. It's just physics. And that's a fact. But wait, it actually gets worse. If you think carrying a heavy battery is bad, wait until you see what happens halfway through the flight. Because in a normal plane, the weight actually disappears as you go, right? In an electric plane, you're gonna be stuck with it. And here's the real scam in the marketing that the guys never mention. Fuel disappears. A normal jet is a living system. As it flies, it burns fuel. That means it gets lighter every single second it's in the air. Now I want you to go ahead and just think about like a really long flight. Like think about a flight from like Logan Airport in Boston over to Europe. By the time the plane is ready to land, it has shed almost half of its total weight. And because it's lighter, it needs less lift. It's easier to slow down and it's nimble. The physics actually works here. It works with the plane as the trip goes on. But a battery is an anchor. It weighs exactly the same when it's 100% full as it does when it's 100% empty. Think about the stress on the hardware. You have to build massive wings and heavy duty landing gear just to carry the weight of an empty battery pack all the way to the runway. You are carrying a permanent anchor for 4,000 miles. You are paying the full weight penalty for the entire flight, which ends up killing your efficiency in this whole entire self-defeating loop that just goes over and over and over. It's a glitch in the hardware that no amount of trying harder can fix. It's ridiculous. And if you think a heavy plane is the only problem we're dealing with here, you haven't even seen the heat specs yet. And that's the next wall we're going to hit. So let's get into it. You have the heat. Now this is the part they never show you in any of the renders that they're always making. To get a massive commercial jet into the sky, you have to pull a suicidal amount of power out of all those batteries all at once just for the takeoff. There's a hard-coded rule in physics. When you move a lot of electricity fast, you generate heat. And it's not a slow build. It grows exponentially. You know how your phone gets hot when you're just fast charging it? I want you to go ahead and just apply that principle and imagine it to heat scaled up by 1,000,000 times inside a pressurized tube up at 30,000 feet up in the air. To keep those batteries from melting the floor of the plane, you'd need some massive heavy liquid cooling systems in place. And what does that extra hardware do? It adds more weight, which requires more power, which generates more heat. It's a hardware death spiral. We aren't failing because we aren't smart enough. We're actually hitting a thermal ceiling of the materials themselves. But sure, we can just fly smaller planes, right? Wrong. Now, I know I'm gonna have people in the comments and they're gonna be like, okay, fine. We're not gonna build a 777 that's an electric plane. We're just gonna replace it with 20 smaller electric planes instead. I want you to go ahead and just think about the incredible mess that would create. Because now we have the airspace wall. Air traffic control needs safety bubbles around every single plane. You can't just cram 20 small planes into one jet's takeoff slot without a total communications crash. And then you have the pilot wall. A big jet needs 2 pilots. The solution? Just created a requirement for 40 pilots to move the same number of people. We don't have them. This is kind of where it gets funny. To charge 20 planes fast enough to hit a schedule, you'd need a dedicated power plant at every single gate. The grid can't take the heat, and the hardware can't take the load. You're trying to solve a hardware problem by crashing the entire logistical system. It's a scam designed to keep you looking at the horizon so you don't notice the walls of the sandbox that we're actually in. So here's the billion-dollar question. If this is such a scam, why are smart people putting billions of dollars into it? Why are the major airlines and massive firms cutting checks for planes that you say can't fly? It's a fair question, and it's actually the only one that matters. But if you look at how the money actually moves, you realize that the smart money isn't betting on a plane. They're betting on a game. The airplane is not the product. When a massive firm invests in an electric startup, they don't care if the plane ever actually leaves the ground. They're all looking for an exit strategy. The goal isn't to build a working airline. The goal is to take a company public or sell it to a bigger fish. They invest at stage A, use a glossy renders to hype the company to stage B, and sell their shares at stage C to the next guy. And nobody is checking the math because everyone's getting paid. The money is real, but the physics is fake. It's ridiculous. Electric planes are not happening. Not at scale, and not with this hardware. The future they sold you was just a render to keep the hype going forever and ever and ever. We aren't failing. I guess you could kind of say we're region locked. The physics wall isn't a hurdle we haven't cleared yet. It's more like a boundary, and it's a limit built into the environment to keep us right here. And if you think I'm wrong, I want you to prove it. Show me the energy per pound and the heat dissipation, and not just a CGI video. Now, if you want to see how the same lie applies to the silicon physics wall, go ahead and watch that video. Stop falling for the hype, stay grounded, and I'll see you guys in the next one.